introduce our mayor. Everyone knows him just as Mike, so I'm going to say, Mike, come on up here.
Thank you all for coming out. I cannot, if it were pretty evening, I would do the Chamber of Commerce speech and say, yeah, this is the city, but no, I'll get the weather control guys and the city staff right on top of this. That's my only attempt at a joke. I won't make any more, I promise you. I'll put that up there for a minute. By the way, before I get going, thank you. I appreciate this. I always appreciate the opportunity to come out. As Jim indicated, I've been distracted lately. Is that our humorous way of putting it? I know. And so if I get emotional, don't get, you don't have to act that way. I went to grief group, I go for grief group with wife, and what they say is, just work through it. Don't worry about it for everybody. So if I have tried to force myself to speak, because it helps to come out and talk and meet people and be social. I was doing an interview, Channel 11 reporter, and this is on the air, And then she said, she was talking about the city and everything like this, and then she said, I said, oh no, I didn't do this by myself. My wife was a campaign manager, and without her there'd be no city. And she said, oh, I'd love to meet your wife. And it hit me, and I just start crying. And the camera, and she's going, kill the camera, kill the camera. What? And I said, she died in January. And she goes, oh my God. And I went, just give me a second. But that happens, and if you don't know anything about grief, that happens, and you just don't know when it's going to happen and why. And you can't be ashamed of it, guys, because it's just life. However, I'm going to wish you along. Where's Jenny? I'll tell you what I said to her earlier. All you long-lived couples, I hope you die at the same time. Because I don't want you to go through what I'm going through. I'll just say that, and now I'll get back on topic. Sorry. I have a tendency to digress, but you guys look like home folks, and but I've left this up there for a reason. When I stood and talked to myself, usually I talk to Debbie about what's the message? How do I want to leave you feeling when I get done with this? A lot of people, where's Father? Forgive me for what I'm about to say, but there's a lot of people in this community and all around that think our community and our country are going to hell in a handbasket. It's just a lot of things going on that make people very nervous. How I want you to feel. And you're concerned for your families and our culture and our country. Well, how I want you to feel is your decision 12 years ago to vote for a city. Those of you that did, thank you. I want you to believe, that wasn't a bad idea. Because clearly, hey, Fortune magazine doesn't, they're not kidding around. And when you think about that, there's a lot of things you'll read on Facebook and all around about the #1 city to live in Georgia for. This is Fortune magazine, and they study a community. We didn't know they were doing it. They were requesting information, but they do that all the time. You don't know the story. But I just wanted everybody to leave feeling, that may be true around us, but that's not true here. That this is a good place to raise our family. This is a good place to live, for as long as we can make it that way. All right, fair enough. What does it take? Well, you can read it as well as I did. Great housing options. Is there a realtor in here? If there is, they would tell you, oh yeah, well then why don't you have more, because there is no housing inventory out there. I say this with a straight face. People want to live here. Great schools. The city doesn't have anything to do with the schools. However, if you don't think I try to influence every decision regarding the schools that I can. Employment opportunities, we're going to talk about intuitive surgical in a minute, but we want as many jobs as we can, and we want them to be the right jobs for our future and our schools, for the community. Great family-friendly entertainment recreation. Amen, brother. Safety and security, engaged citizens, leadership through innovation. We'll talk about all those as we go through. But being a reformed accountant, let's talk about the numbers. The population, when we started, 39.6, now it's 42.2. I want you to remember that number, especially when we start talking about jobs in a minute. It's up 6.6%. People want to live here. People want to move here. Number of housing units, they're up, but they're not making any more land. So what you've got is what's called infill, and that's something you have to be very careful about, how you do it, where you do it. Median home prices, that 23% increase. I mean, everybody, I can be, my favorite restaurant, Kiko's Mexican place up the way, I can be in there, and depending upon how many margaritas the person talking with is they will inevitably get around to what's really on their mind. Man, we love what you're doing. Love my house price. Wink, wink. That 23%, we did a little study of all the communities around us. That's higher than a lot of the other areas. Everybody's is up. It's up a little more. Jobs, remember that number of employment, of population? You know, 42.3 or 4, whatever it was, 42.9. We've got more jobs than citizens. That's roughly a 1-to-1 ratio between citizens and jobs. What large metropolitan area south of us has the same ratio? Metro Atlanta. And that's because it's a major job hub. What does that really tell you about us? We've been a major job hub for years. In Paul Duke's day, we were roughly the same ratio. If you look at the population back in 12, it's like 0.7 to 1. Being an accountant, I look at numbers and ratios. But the point is simply that this community feels like a bedroom community, but it's not. We really have a lot of jobs. It's just we make sure the employment opportunities, Tech Park and other areas, where they need to be, and we try to keep things balanced. Office vacancy rate, particularly proud of this. Did anybody see an AJC article, I don't know, less than a month ago? Metro Atlanta is worried because their vacancy rate is up to 25% and climbing because people are staying home and people are shedding office space, right? Anybody read? I mean, if you're in the business, if anybody knows about corporate real estate, you can say amen right now. I was raised Baptist. My dad was a Baptist deacon, so amen from the floor or something. Something to, other than not sitting on the first 3 or 4 benches. I don't know if they do that here. But that vacancy rate if we became a city in July of 12, in that fall, Nick Messina, who's the president of Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce, came to me and he said, congratulations, you got a problem. Tech Park has a vacancy rate of, as you can see, 25%. And he said, we already know of 2 or 3 big companies, Vicer amongst them, that when they leave, and they've told us we're leaving Peachtree Corners, you will be pushing an office vacancy rate of 30%, which is like a third world country. Congratulations, that's your first problem, Mayor. Have at it, I gotta go. And we realized right then, you know, he's right. Paul Duke, you know, we were robbed of his brains, vision, intellect because of Alzheimer's. But that office part was getting a little older than 12. It still is. But then after talking to a lot of businessmen and other people that were good advisors, we realized an incubator may be the best way to do that. Because who's interested in older office parks? Starbucks. I don't care what it looks like. They just want space. So we started that way, and it has now become Curiosity Lab, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we've managed to reduce it because Curiosity Lab is working for what we wanted it for, and also just what's going on in the city. It's attracting companies, and I'll talk about the decision, how Intuitive Surgical made the decision, how others made the decision to come in, and why. So we managed to get that office vacancy rate down to 19% in spite of COVID and, you know, half the workforce working from home. That is a bigger accomplishment than the number. You have to know the story behind those numbers. Property tax rate, I'm proud to say, it's 0. And as long as I'm there, it'll stay 0, although I can't speak for, if we ever, I was telling somebody, if we ever get a police force is the single largest budget item. And then, you know, you've got that issue of, well, I won't get into it. I'm going to talk about the Marshall program. When I do, I'll talk about police force. Anyway, but we're more about the community, the family-friendly things than we are about just the numbers that you can see. That's some concert we had over town center. I don't remember what it was, but this summer everybody is telling me how well attended they are. I mean, they're just, people love them. They want to get back out. Plus, it's a safe environment. People like going there. But there we go. Okay. Oh. And that's just good examples of things that were going on in the community. I love speaking. Let me invite you all. Memorial Day and Veterans Day over at the Veterans Monument. If you're not busy those days, come out. They always have a good speaker. I always say a few words, and that's a good thing. And it builds those memories, active community memories. And that's something that's important. Business and jobs. Those are companies that are here now. Siemens was here before. Most of the rest of them were not here until there was a city actively managing things. Intuitive Surgical, that's a real coup. We beat out something in North Carolina, Research Triangle. You know, matter of fact, in the original, I'm going to take longer than, I'm sorry, I'm just going to digress. It was up in Boston, what do they call it? It's Route 128. That's where the high-tech ring is up there. They were in competition. You know, Research Triangle, North Carolina was in competition. And Peachtree Corners, Georgia, and who won? No kidding. City staff did a great job. You know, they were successful because they didn't tell the mayor or either. They said, gee, guess what? This, Governor Kim he was there for us, the county was there for us, they chipped in and did their part. That is about 1,200 jobs, some say as many as 1,500 average starting salaries. Or average salary, not starting, average salary, $150,000 a year. That's an average. You've got a lot of guys that are going to be working in the robotic assembly area that they love. Paul Duke High School and Norcross High School graduates. These kids come right out of there and they ain't making far from 100 really quickly. And that's going to be good for this community in many ways, and they're going to hire those jobs locally. So when they talk about employing, you know, 1,200, 1,500 people, a lot of them won't be coming from California, bringing California dollars, looking for homes. But if they're, like I said, if there's a realtor in the room, where did you say those people are going to live? I've talked to all the mayors of the surrounding cities, you know, at Norcross, Dunwoody, I mean, Johns Creek. It's not hard to talk to the Dorville. And they go, we have no inventory either. So over the next 4 or 5 years, as they start moving people in, you're going to see a lot of push for housing, or they're just going to have to move in concentric circles away from us. But the benefit of Intuitive Surgical is it's going to change the complexion of this community in a very positive way, probably forever, because they're going to be our biggest employer. They make, if you don't know what Intuitive Surgical does, they make the Da Vinci robotic surgical device. There you go. You twice used, yeah. Oh, yeah, believe me, Debbie had used it too, and a lot of women that do a lot of hysterectomies using that. But the punchline is it's the only one approved by the FDA, and robotic surgery it's growing at a rapid rate. And they're also building not just their East Coast headquarters. They're a Silicon Valley company, multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. And this is their East Coast headquarters, and they're building their training center for the East Coast. They train doctors, surgeons on how to use this device. And they said their estimate was, and they gave this to the state of Georgia to justify the tax breaks, 16,000 hotel room nights a year. And think of all the restaurant tabs that they estimated $250 a night, surgeons, entertainment. And so our, entertainment sector or our hospitality sector was badly bruised and beaten by COVID. A lot of them are talking about, the Marriott, the Hilton, they're struggling. Oh, this will get them well in a big hurry. Right now they're full. Things are going really well. Pickleball tournaments, of all things. But that's an important aspect of the future for our education and everything else. The forum. All right, retail mixed-use development, forum refresh, adding apartments, hotel. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but that's what it's going to look like when it's done. And essentially, you can see all that parking that was in the middle. That's going to be pulled out, and they're going to, instead of wasting space on parking, they're going to put green space in there and put a parking deck behind. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, apartments. I cannot tell you the number of times I've had people come up to me and tug on my sleeve and say, love what you're doing, please do more apartments. Like the forum, and I go, I can't let that go without trying to explain. And she said, this happened just the other day at Publix. I mean, I can't go anywhere. But it was, I said, well, let me try to explain. The objective was not to just, okay, where can we put more apartments in this community? Well, I know the forum. The idea was to save the forum. I mean, anybody been to Gwinnett Place Mall shopping lately? Anybody been to the North Point Mall of Georgia? You get my point? All of them. Bricks and mortar retail is dying, and it started with Amazon home delivery, and COVID just about was a death knell. Excuse me. That's 500,000 square feet of retail in the heart of our community. We weren't, and it's right across the street from town center, so we weren't about to let it. So we go down. So we talked to North American Properties, who did Avalon, Fitz Plaza, Atlantic Station.
Colony Square.
You get it. You know, they tell, and they do really excellent work. And the wise men and wise women, and we hired consultants to talk to us. They said, look, bricks and mortar retail may be dead, but the exception is, if you live there, or you have a core of people who live there, they'll keep the site activated. And that's shown out with experience at this location, this location, this location. So they're putting 1,500 apartments at Gwinnett Place Mall. They're putting a Blue Million at North Point Mall. I think we've got about 500, 600 between both sides of the road that are going to be going in. They're very high end. These are 1 and 2 bedrooms. Average salary, average age. Okay, we'll do a little quiz here. What's the average age of the people living in the apartments at Avalon?
30.
55. What's the average salary? What is their income? About 2.5, 250. These are, I mean, how many children are going to school on school buses? 2. This is not the same thing. Mostly, it's retired people selling their 4,000 and 5,000 square foot homes, and they want to, go live in Florida with the kids 6 months a year. But they love Peachtree Corners, so they get without extra travel, they get an apartment. And at Avalon, that's what they do there. Those are very expensive. But that's who they typically market to, and young people who are fairly well-to-do. All right, that's in front of Belk's. That's what it's going to look like there. You see the one in the foreground with the 4 little cupolas on top there? That's the new food court that is going to be coming there. Politan, that's extremely high and well regarded. They're pretty excited about that one. And that's the Innovation Loss, and that's next to the Botanical Garden. Everybody know where Lazy Dog is?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody called it. You mean the drainage ditch next to it? That is not a drainage ditch. That's going to be the Botanical Gardens, okay? Walk down through there and you will see that it's a lot. They put in the infrastructure, which is sidewalks and things like this. And they're going to be eventually putting in a beautiful botanical garden that will be resident there. Tucson Court, that's right across the street from Intuitive. They are very thrilled that they put those apartments in because, quite frankly, they want their employees to live there so they can walk right across the street. How many people have heard that we have 51% equity or homeowner, single family, and 49% apartments, rental in this community? Show of hands, how many have heard that? Anybody heard? This is okay, I thought somebody, Lori has. That's Lori Christopher, she's on the council. We hear that stuff. Well, it's true and it's not true. Because I said rental. Because when that first came out, it was kind of, there's this, it's an urban myth. I've talked to urban scientists down at the ARC, our own staff. Is it true that if you get over 50% apartments, You literally do go to hell in a handbasket in a community. Well, you know, I've heard that back in the UPCCA days when we fought against apartments, and then it was garden apartments, and they were in the wrong place, and they were not targeted toward employment for people in Tech Park and, you know, things like that. So I said, you know, this just doesn't make sense. And so I asked the research people and the planners and the analysts at the Atlanta Regional Commission, could you research this? Because they don't have a horse in this fight, and they do excellent work. And they said, it's true and it's not true. The politician should answer it that way, but I said, they said, it is 51% single family, but that rental number, your apartment is only about 33%. That other 16%, that's single family homes being rented, is rental. Think for a second, your neighborhood, how many homes, single family homes in your neighborhood are being rented? When I heard that, I went, well darn, there's 3 homes in my neighborhood, Fox Hill, right over there by Simpson Elementary, that are for rent. That's what they were picking up, and then they called it rental, and somebody assumed it was. And then, of course, rather than getting the facts straight, they just get it out there because, you know, they're concerned about somebody with a different skin color than theirs moving in the neighborhood. Sorry, that's an editorial comment, and I apologize if I offend you, but I really mean it. One of the other things that's important in our community is physical activity. When we show you the town center minute, we're going to look at the playground equipment, but multi-use trails, places for young people and adults to walk. If you live near a multi-use trail, you can add 10% to your property value. That's proven out across the U.S. It absolutely is true. As you can see the kind of the big circle there, that's a 11.4 mile track around Tech Park. Now, there are a lot of places that we've got planned to have a little cut, like for example, on East, anybody live on East Jones Bridge Road or near East Jones Bridge Road? Okay, well, Lori does, of course. You know, we just widen that. It's about 14 feet wide. It goes from CDS all the way to Jones Bridge Park. That's part of an ARC project that's going all the way from way below the airport all the way up to Beaufort Dam, where you can walk that whole distance. And we're already talking to the city of Johns Creek about a pedestrian bridge about where the old bridge, you know, collapsed into there, putting it there, this pedestrian bridge that the ARC, I mean, they want the multi-use trail to connect at that end to our multi-use trail in our city, so someone can walk up, across the bridge, because the walking trail side won't be in Peachtree Corners because we have too much private property that owns the riverside, you know, river station on it. But there's land over on the Johns Creek side, so it would be over there, the walking trail. So there's a lot of those places as we go forward. Now, one of the things that is going to be the next thing you hear about is Crooked Creek Trail. How many people have seen the Crooked Creek Park that Sandy Springs is doing over there? Yeah, okay. It's on Spalding, right before Winter's Chapel is where they replace the bridge. That's where Sandy Springs, that's Crooked Creek. It goes from there, and we will have a trail starting there, joining their park, all the way up through the apartments, crossing Peachtree Corners Circle, and it comes out at the Crystal, way over there, you know, where the NCG Plaza is, at IHOP, it'll come out there, and then we'll go straight up 141 on the west side of the road. We just got a $300,000 grant from the ARC because they love the idea. And so they we have dollars to start the engineering studies and that kind of stuff. The total project's going to be about $4.3 million, and we will hope to get grants and things like that for that. One of the things that when we first started the city, Debbie said, Mike, is there a role for like the First Lady? What am I supposed to do? And I said, I don't know, honey, let's ask. So we asked some of the city staff who were experienced city people, and they said, anything she wants to do. I mean, it's like, pick a project, something. And it was, and we talked about it a long time, and her idea was to make memories. Simple as that, to make memories. That's why she got so actively involved in the Peachtree Corners Festival. To make it so that we had things so when our kids grow up, go away, they go, oh, you know, I have such a good time. I'll come visit mom and dad and go to the festival. That's an ideal thing. But the town center playground, that's absolutely happening. Now, Debbie, you know, that was one of those things that she worked as hard as anybody behind the scenes with those ideas. But the town center playground has been probably the most popular thing we have ever done. It's everybody's backyard. How many have been over there? You could go over there, I don't know, not in this storm. I was about to say, you can go over there right now. There will be kids all summer long. There are kids there. People love it. They go to concerts. They can turn their kids loose because we designed it that way. We want your children to be safe there. That's one of the reasons that area is surrounded with more cameras than, you know, the White House. You're going to be safe. There's one of the reasons we added the Marshall group too, so we can monitor it, keep an eye on it, because we want you to be able to go there. Okay, your back is to the forum. You're looking up at the pine trees. The stage is on your right. Everybody kind of get oriented there. You know, the hill that's there that the kids like to slide down and everything, all that's going to move. We're going to take all that down. And what we're going to put in is a new tot lot, we're calling it. And there is all kinds of new things. And a lot of the reason we did it is young males, when they get in middle school with all that testosterone, we have a teacher in the room that can speak to that. They were riding their bikes up the hill, and there's kids right beside them. And so they were terrifying the moms, and who do they call, you know? So we're taking that down, and we're doing it this way so that that playground equipment, it's like the other playground equipment. It's state of the art. People will love it. They'll enjoy it. And that is coming up in, looks like spring of 24. Safety and security, 3 post-certified marshals. I've been asked this question a lot of times. Oh, so you're starting your own police force? Guess you came around to, no, these are city marshals. We are not leaving Gwinnett County PD. Let's talk about Gwinnett County PD, and then I'll tell you the reason why we need a marshal service. Gwinnett County PD, I got this information like a month or 2 ago. Round numbers, they have a police force of 1,000 people. 200 of them are administrative. They have 200 vacancies. So that means the 800 officers that are out patrolling and protecting, they're down to 600. And it's hard to hire policemen these days. And so response times, especially when there's an intersection takeover, these hooligans come with their cars going around and around. That happened over on Spalding and Jaybird Alley. And my phone was like melting down. It was like, but you know, I'd have been that way too. If my wife had been, you know, caught in, because the lady called me, she said I was 1 car behind where all the stuff was going on, and she was scared to death. And she said she kept blowing her horn and yelling, and she got mad. And a guy got out of the car, walked up in front of her hood, and shot a pistol off right in front of her, scared her to death. And that won't cut it. This is not going to happen. So we made it clear to Gwinnett County PD, please, because they didn't respond to 911. They said, yeah, we'll tell you why we didn't respond to 911. That is considered a misdemeanor traffic violation. All they did was block the intersection and made a lot of noise and made red, you know, black circles around there. We had everybody in the West Precinct chasing a robbing crew that had hit 3 places. They did the intersection takeover around midnight. About 11 o'clock, this group of, you know, thugs had robbed the place. Then they went at midnight and hit another place and shot the guy who resisted, you know, the retail establishment. And then about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they did it again. They said, we've been chasing those guys across Gwinnett County ever since. Sorry we didn't get to you. And I realized that's a problem. So that's not the only reason for the Marshall program, but Gwinnett County did do a big arrest. I think they arrested 80 or 90 people, and I don't think they've come back to our community. And I promise not to get off track and talk about it. If you want to talk about it afterwards, if you want to ask me a question, I'll tell you all you want to know about intersection takeovers and those people. And they are, anyway, there are 16 cities in Gwinnett County. 8 of them use Gwinnett County Police for their police force. 8 of them have their own. We're obviously the one that doesn't. The county attorney's office, probably within the past year, came out and said, we don't want our policemen to enforce city ordinances, local ordinances. If it's state law or county law, you know, then our guys will do it. But really, stuff that's code enforcement or things like, and we were using an example, what if somebody pulls up in front of your house and they park an RV, or a 16-wheeler, right in front of it, and the way they've got it kind of goes over into your driveway, so it's just not safe to back out of your driveway, or you maybe can't turn this way, you have to go this way, and then you have to go to your neighbor's and turn. It's a true story. That's the reason I'm telling you this. They won't enforce it. They won't come, even though we have an ordinance against that, blocking the road, simple things like that. They won't do it. They say, well, look, we can't have our officers memorizing 8 cities' ordinances. So the cities in Gwinnett have started adding marshal services. I mean, Berkeley Lake's got one. Who do we have here that lives in Berkeley Lake? Matthew's here just a minute ago. They got one. Sugar Hill's now up to 5 marshals because they've got that big, you know, area that's for entertainment. And what you want is, right now we have to do off-duty policemen to come for our festival and our concerts. And if they get a call, guess what? They're gone. You know, that they won't be called back on duty, because if it's an on-duty policeman, they have to leave if they're dispatched somewhere that's a violent crime going on. So we realized we needed guys of our own to enforce our own ordinances, and that post-certified, that's what policemen are. They're post-certified. They can carry guns, they can do arrests, and they will be. We got 2 hired now. I met them the other day, and the 3rd one's going, when he retires from Gwinnett County PD in the fall, we're going to hire him. So, and the other thing they're going to be doing is video surveillance. Everybody remembers when that coach was murdered at Quick Trip?
Yep.
How quickly do you think the Gwinnett County PD was watching the vehicle leave? Almost immediately. As soon as they got the call, they started looking. Gwinnett County has a digital policing department now, and Norcross has got like over 200 cameras. They got, all these cities have a lot of cameras. We're a new city, so we don't have near as many, but this is how you enhance the police's efforts. You provide things so they can monitor it real time from their offices, wherever they are in Lawrenceville or something like this. And that's what they did. They got a description of the car and the tag number, and the license plate reader cameras were tracking that car as it was going down 85 down into southeast Atlanta with the 3 murderers in it. And it pulled into a gas station in Atlanta PD. State Patrol and everybody closed in on it. They had already left by the time they could put together the SWAT team and everything like this. But they got pictures of 2 of them. That's why they did an arrest of 2 guys almost immediately. And the 3rd guy took off for Florida. And it took them a while to track him down. They had to persuade those guys, I guess. But that's policing in the age of shortages of policemen, hard to hire them, and that word that I'll just go ahead and say out loud, George Floyd. Does anybody want the responsibility of training a police force in this age? I'd rather have Gwinnett County. They're very professional, well regarded across the community and across the country. We'll have a marshal program, and I'll take any questions on that when we get to it. How many of you in here ever heard me 12 years ago when I was, because I spoke here, Jim knows, he was probably part of that group too. I spoke, and it was, I gave a speech about why you need a city. I would say, why do you think we need a city? And everybody would say, because of this or that. And I go, it's self-determination. We need to make the decisions affecting our community ourselves. We don't need 5 people, even though I love Burton City and I love Lynette Howard. You know, 5 people out in Lawrenceville making decisions about our community. And I said, we're at the tipping point. And I called it the tipping point speech because I said tipping point 20 times throughout the whole thing. Most people knew I was talking about the biggest redevelopment need in our community, which was south of Open Bridge Road. We have some 50-year-old apartments over there. And the crime rate, last time we checked, was about 25% higher than it is the city average. Do you really think those people want to live in crime? No more than you do. But that's where it is. And so we've been trying to come up with redevelopment strategies, and we would have incentives, and we would target the incentives based on the estimated market value of apartments at that age. Guess what? Market values go up. And it's because occupancy, it used to be you see people being evicted all the time along there. Don't see that much anymore. That's because they raise prices and upgrade, and they put lipstick on pigs, which they have in some cases. But those places are quite expensive, and they sell for higher multiples per door. That's the way apartment complexes are. So we are going to take a different tack with our redevelopment. And so we formed a redevelopment authority a couple of years ago. And we have 3 projects that I want to talk to you about that are coming up. This is the Peachtree Corners Circle Catalyst project, okay? You see, now that's Peachtree Corners Circle. The upper part going up, that's going toward Open Bridge Road, going down obviously toward JR's around where you go there. On the left, you see that trail coming through there? That's the Crooked Creek Trail that I talked about a few minutes ago. It's coming through and it's crossing Peachtree Corner Circle. And then on the right is obviously the other side of the trail coming through. Now, what we're proposing to do is there's going to be a boardwalk plaza with dining and a stage on the west side. That's on the left. That's on, let's see, that would be, let's see, my left. You're right. And the other side is a boardwalk playground. And right there on the Crooked Creek Trail. If you want people to have pride in their community, give them something to be proud of. So it's going to look very nice. That's what it's going to look like from above. That's going to be, and I think we're looking from the west to east, and that's a food truck over there. So we're trying to, somebody's got to go first, and it falls the role of government to do that. If you want to get developers to come to you and go, oh, we see what you're doing. Yes, we'll do that. That's what you do. Now, hold on a second. Let me go back. See that? That Peachtree Corner Circle, as you can see. What does the median look like? Does that look like the median you see there now? Who's driven on Peachtree Corner Circle lately? Yeah. Okay, you see where we started digging it out and stopped. Well, contractors, when they say, yeah, this is a bigger job than we thought, give us a couple more $100,000 and we'll finish it, otherwise we'll walk it. So we told them to walk. And then we went back and got the second highest bidder, and they said, sure, we'll do it, keep our quote the same way it is. I don't think they updated it very much. So it's been a huge delay, been a big embarrassment. Yes, people on that side of town go, who's taking so long? I'm sorry. But it will be crepe myrtles and plants. It will clean that up and dress that up. It's going to be something that looks like the rest of the city. So you can be proud of it. Okay. This location, shopping center redevelopment concept, PIB, Jimmy Carter. Okay, everybody knows where the old Upton's, and there was a workout place there, LA Fitness. That's what I was trying to think of. Well, there, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're proposing. What you do in the city is you develop a plan, and then you put it out there to the development community and go, we will have incentive packages if you will build what we want, and we will work with you on it. And what you'll see on the left, it's going to be a combination of office, retail, residential, hotel, restaurant, and the trail connection, because that's where Crooked Creek Trail will come through. Okay? That's what it looks like now if you're across Jimmy Carter, if your back is to the old LA Fitness. That's what it looks like now. That's what we want it to look like. That's the car wash that's there now on the LA Fitness side. That's what we want it to look like. This community is at the tipping point, but we spent a lot of money and a lot of time on Tech Park, Curiosity Lab, the town center. We're getting the forum remodernized. It's time to do something on that side of town. okay? Mechanicsville, that's our third project up there. How many people know where Mechanicsville is? Everybody know? Buford Highway, Norcross is, if you're standing, that is we're on the west side. That is Peachtree Corners. The other side is Gwinnett County, down a little bit is the city of Norcross. But one of the things that we were fortunate because of our size was to, everybody know what ARPA funding is? President Biden, that whole program for ARPA during COVID, we got over $16 million. And there's been a lot of it that we've given to nonprofits, and I think we've tried to be generous as we could, as Father, with you folks here, and anybody that we could, in doing things here. But you can also use it for workforce housing. Notice I didn't say affordable housing. Man, that is a loaded term. You can't get it. That means so, but me being irreverent, I would just say it. But think about it like this. I was at Paul Duke. I do volunteer work at a lot of schools and things. So I'm there, and the assistant principal's late for the meeting, and I said, let's just go ahead. Oh, she'll be here in a minute. And she has a big part of the program. Chit chat. She comes in and she said, "I'm so sorry, but I have to live in Snellville or someplace, and or Decula, and it's a long drive." And then she looks at me and she says, "Gee, I sure wish I could afford to live in Peachtree Corners." And I go, "Oh," and the principal, the wonderful guy, Jonathan Wethington, said, "Don't say anything. Don't get them started." And afterwards I said, "What?" And he said, "Oh, listen, you want to really stir up my faculty? They want to live here. They love the community. They love being around. They just can't afford to live here." The point is, neither can our first responders, our policemen, our firemen, our teachers, our nurses. This is workforce housing. I told you we put in apartments in Tech Park because that's what young office workers in the technology industry, that's where they want to live, in apartments. In Midtown, all those companies that were leaving Peachtree Corners back in 2012, they couldn't get their workers here. The workers wanted to live in Midtown so they could take MARTA or ride their bike or live across the street in an apartment from where they worked, or you get it, or walk to work. That's a very urban concept. We're all very car-centric. I'm just looking at the gray hair assessment there. And I know how you think. I argue. But what we're going to do is we can use ARPA dollars that were given to us, and one of the allowable uses was affordable housing. So that's what we're calling this. And being Peachtree Corners, what we're going to do is say, because one of the other boxes you can check, for extra credit with the government, and that's always a good thing with the federal government, is does it affect climate change? So we're going to make sure all these houses they're extremely secure, HVAC, they're very energy efficient, because the people that live there, they don't need to have inefficient houses. So it'll be state-of-the-art in that regard. And the savings on, well, how are they going to afford it? Because I thought you told me a few minutes ago the average house price at Peachtree Corners was $1 bazillion. It's what, $350 or something? I forget what the slide says. The point is we can sell that land, because the land is the biggest, it's a big part of the thing. We can sell it for $1. And then the housing costs will get Habitat involved. And there are some other developers who will donate stuff to these houses if you'll let them put in their new air conditioners, heaters, things like this. So we have great city staff and they're on top of this. Stay tuned for that, because these will be for sale and not be rentals. This is going to be homes, single-family homes. That's our third project. Ingalls Shopping Center. How many people have heard, oh, they're going to remodel Ingalls? Okay, good. Well, it's not true, and it is true. Okay, what it is, as usually, there's clearly a kernel of truth. What it is this: the folks, the property manager, the folks who own the Ingalls Shopping Center, they called us and said, "Hey, we love what North American Properties is going to do with Forum. We don't want to be left behind. What do you recommend we do?" So the city put together four issues, or 4 options, based on our assessment of the issues and opportunities there at the, and I know you probably can't read that, but let me just kind of read off a few. But we recommended four directions they could take, and I'm going to go through, I won't do chapter and verse because we'd be here all night. But it is an outdated, overly large grocery store, apparently grocery stores. That's 40,000 square feet, that's what Ingles is. Now, grocery stores, 20, 25,000 is about all they want. And Ingles is on board with that. They would love to downsize their space. The retail storefront, it's not visible from Peachtree Park. People come driving by from Johns Creek and they can't see what's back in there. So the way it is now is they move everything up to the front, put the parking behind. That's the way the concept works. The continuous drainage ditch along the property frontage. How many people think that drainage ditch in front of CVS is attractive? It looks good. Yeah, I was there. Remember, I was in UPCCA for 100 years before we had a city. Oh, I remember clearly. I know the developer, know him well, still do, seen him recently. Actually, I know his brother. His brother owns property here in the community, wants to build something. He was mad at us because he didn't get everything he wanted, so he left the ditch uncovered. And that is, he just left it that way. So that's an issue. Unappealing, non-existent landscaping, no pedestrian circulation, and on and on and on. I won't read you more options. And there are 4 options. My favorite is option D. But the principle is this, that like the first one, option A, keep Ingles as is at the current location, add retail along the front, add some townhomes to the vacant lot. Then the second one, option B, relocate a reduced size acre, cut it down in half, and move it and have townhomes. Look at the last one, relocate all commercial to the front of the property, place all residential to the rear of the property. I'll show you what this all looks like. Oh, and how do you fix a ditch? Well, you put decorative screens over it. I would have never got this one. But everybody, it's the bridge. You see, I won't ask how many people have been up on the bridge. I'm not going to raise the bridge issue. I don't want to be here all night asking questions about it. But you see that screening there? That screening can be adapted to go over the ditch. Yeah, and all you see is the screening, and it's decorative screening. It doesn't look as bad as it does now. So that's something we're looking at too. And there's option A, B, C, let's do D, my favorite. And essentially what that is you can see, number 4, retail, that's where the Ingles would be. In a smaller store, whatever size they want. And you can see other retail across the front. And the number 3 back there, that is, as you have heard, 55 and over age restricted housing. Some for sale, it'll be condos. Oh, you believe me, I agree. We need more of that, still do. That will be both condos and rental, depending on the needs of the senior, but it's going to be 55 and over. Parking's in the middle. The gray areas are, the CVS will stay the way it is. What's the name of the daycare up there? It's, that'll be there. And then the, over there where Henri's and the barbecue place is, that'll stay. But everything else will move around. If we can get McDonald's to actually return our calls. I'm so excited. Why hasn't McDonald's? I'll go ahead and I'll ask that question and answer it. McDonald's is bigger than the city of Peachtree Corners, so they don't have to return our calls. There you go. I mean, people aren't buying as many hamburgers, and so I've heard for years McDonald's is really a real estate company. I mean, Ray Kroc's time, they were concerned about pleasing the customers with burgers. Now it's, can we sell this property at a they are not, I mean, when we say you have a code enforcement problem and we're going to start, the judge, municipal court judge is going to be a couple $100s a day until we fix it, they yawn. That's just not enough money to get on. So they finally got around to responding to us, and they said, we own that, not the franchisee, and we haven't determined what our plans are. Well, if you have somebody who's a developer, North American or somebody else, who says, I'd like to buy it, they'll return that call because, all we're saying is, what are your plans? And they're not going to tell us their plans. So anyway, it is, and they have, to finish the story, what the property owner at Ingalls said, or at the Ingalls Shopping Center said is, we love these, let us go talk about it, we'll be back in touch. That's where it stands. And it's only been in the past month, really. It's pretty exciting. I think it's a good thing because it gives everything a refresh and it makes our whole community look good. Plus it addresses housing. Along the side there, by the way, on East Jones Bridge, that's townhomes. So it gives some more homes for people. You know, I know people tell me, my kids, who was it, where Greg, he's on the council with us, where said, my daughter wants to move back. And when you get somebody saying their child wants to move back to the community, be near, that's a wonderful dream, you want your kids to come back. He said, except you can't find a house. And where there's every realtor in the town, for crying out loud. Bob Chapin knows the other half. But it's one of those situations that townhomes, the right price, that'll sell, all right? And that's what it would look like in the final edition. And you see the brown there in front? That's what covering the ditch will look like. And we will landscape it and make it look nice. And it's one of those situations where we try to make sure everything in the city looks good, and that's what we're trying to do here. Curiosity Lab. How many people have heard about Curiosity Lab? Remember what I think? Good. How many people, remember what I told you a minute ago about Nick Messino coming to me and he said, congratulations on your city, you got a problem. What we sat down and thought about, and we call it prototype prime back then. But a couple of businessmen, I had lunch with every businessman that would talk to me, especially the entrepreneurs, because these are guys that are really creative, and they said, you know what, I'm losing all my employees to Midtown. And I said, well, he said, what we need is some millennial housing. That's codes for apartments for young people, workforce housing, we call it, it's a euphemism. And then all of a sudden, Prototype Prime evolved when you start thinking about what really will work and help the city, because what we wanted was something that would help us fill office space. Because who doesn't care about back then, Paul Duke built most of these office buildings when? 70s, 80s. There hasn't been a lot of new office in this community in a long time. And as I said, Alzheimer's Robinson, Paul Duke's vision and energy and stuff like this. So who doesn't care? And so the office is kind of getting a little old and dated. The old Honeywell building is 15 years old, and Peachtree moved into it and remodeled it. So what we want, who doesn't care about new real estate? Startups. They prefer cheaper, older real estate. And so it was kind of that direction when we talked about it. If you don't know what Curiosity Lab is, it's a 5-kilometer autonomous test track, smart city street. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But what does that really mean, Mike? That mobility test vehicle, and we have an innovation center. Okay, that's fine. That's not typical Mike Mason cheerleader. That's a true statement. It is unlike any other smart city environment on Earth. It is a live 5G, because T-Mobile did it, live 5G wireless environment throughout the whole area. See, we own all the infrastructure on that strip. So if somebody says, I want to do this, we can say yes that afternoon, or just right on the spot. There is no charge for it. Why would we do something, spend so much of your money, and not charge for it? Well, that's because if you bring your company here to Curiosity Lab and you want to test, and you want to stay for a day, you're bound to want to eat lunch at one of our restaurants. I've seen drones deliver pizzas within Texas so they buy stuff and they test it right there. But if you have a couple of days, you're going to want to stay at a hotel. That helps the community. And then if you really like it, we can talk to you about office space. The idea was to help the community, not so the city. We're not trying to subsidize the city. No intellectual property. If you talk to any of the big incubators in downtown Atlanta, they want some of your IP because they want to benefit on it. Respect and guarantee security of proprietary data, the highest level of data security short of any kind of classified data. Why is that important? Well, look at that. Do you really think that you can build an autonomous vehicle that travels along the street that goes by 5G wireless signals, pinging everything all around, and that if you're a hacker or some mischievous kid over at Paul Do, you wouldn't go, wow, this is going to be fun. So, I'll talk about the country of Israel in a minute, but they're more advanced on cybersecurity than anywhere, and we've asked them, and they've got a cybersecurity startup. Incredible stuff in the incubator now, in Curiosity Lab. But you'd think somebody like the FBI and the Secret Service, having them involved would be a good thing. They both held conventions at Curiosity Lab, and the FBI has held a hackathon trying to defeat that, because if you think about the FBI, they're the ones that are going to call if someone shuts down all the smart city technology, street lights, because these autonomous vehicles, they're constantly communicating with the street lights, with the speed limit signs, with the yield signs. They know where you want to be able to know where all the other cars are. My son now has, I know, I speeded up, Mike, I apologize, Jim. But it is something that you have to be very careful about. Digital transformation is a big deal. We have a lot of examples of that. And we are putting our technology everywhere. That is on the left, that is a solar roadway that our vehicles sit on top of. We have the largest electric vehicle charging station in Metro Atlanta. How many people know that? And then, of course, there's the shuttle. And yes, we're talking to GDOT about actually an autonomous shuttle. This is a bigger deal than most people realize. Remember, we had a bike race, and everybody thought, gee, that's fun to have a bike race. Mike, why don't you focus on city business? What's C-V2X? Cellular Vehicle to Everything. That's the ability to have that 5G pinging all surfaces and all vehicles. In other words, if you've got the cell phone in your pocket, that car will ping and find your cell phone, and it knows not to go up on the sidewalk and run into you. Well, see that one down there, VRUs? Vulnerable road users. That's a nerdy way of saying a child walking to Simpson Elementary School, or someone on a bike. So you're going to find pretty soon, and see that partnership with Audi. Audi wants to be the first company to do this, to be able to enable them to say, if your child's backpack has a sensor in it, and most kids have, even going to elementary school, have a cell phone with them, or if not, by middle school, but they have a sensor in their backpack, and they're talking about making them that way, so you can't take it out. The car will see it over there, and if the child walks out in front of the car, it stops the car. And we're testing that in Curiosity Lab. And we did this spring. We just had 9 companies testing here recently, 4 new startups. Wednesday morning of this week, I'm going to be meeting with the Israeli Consul General. I mean, we've got people from all over coming here. And I'm hurrying, Jim. Now that COVID is over, we're getting back to Georgia Tech teaching coding boot camp and big data analysis and all those classes. If you're interested in professional education, let us know. That's all available. This is an example of our partners that we're working with. The local ones, T-Mobile, Qualcomm, Bosch. Bosch is the cameras. OVH Cloud, everybody's heard of Amazon Web Services. That's what everybody keeps their data. When they say cloud, that's what they mean. That's OVH Cloud. That's the AWS of Europe. And that's why most of these countries, see, that top one is Taiwan, then Israel, England, France, Canada. They use OVH Cloud over there an awful lot. We have a lot of international attention. It is really a one of a kind in the country. We attract business. ASHRAE came here. That's the American Society for Heating, Refrigeration, Air Conditioning, and Engineering. And what they do is that is state of the art. If you're going to build a house, the builders, they have to get approved by ASHRAE. They left their location and moved here, bought a 60,000 square foot building, and they're redoing it to make it a net zero building. And they said, any city that does what you're doing with Curiosity Lake, we want to live there. So they came here. And it's a big deal. Bright Tree. They left their location in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and the mayor of Lawrenceville let me know he didn't like that. They bought the old Honeywell building, and they completely redid it, and the reason they gave for coming is, we want to be in Peachtree Corners where Curiosity Lab is. Intuitive Surgical, I've talked about that, and that is turning out to be a great thing. This mobility hub, you know where Andy Brewing is, and you know where the Spalding Animal Hospital is? It's on the Spalding Animal Hospital side. It's an old parking lot that was abandoned. It was part of the old Honeywell building. And that's going to be EV test site and charging station, public transit to the last mile. Gee, I guess that could mean a bus could come from Doraville, drop people off there, and we could have a shuttle to give them a ride there. So, drone delivery testing. How long does a drone battery last? Not very long. That's the problem with drones. So they have two enterprising Georgia Tech graduate students developed a robotic drone battery exchange device. They test it. I mean, and they test it at Curiosity, it works. And they're going to have a whole bunch of them there. And then this, I got it, Jim, I'm sorry, but underground delivery testing. Everybody knows the expression, it sounds like Buck Rogers stuff. What if I told you over at the Goodwill Shopping Center, someone bought a storefront and they started drilling a hole in the ground to go under Spalding and come up over there at our mobility center and on down to Curiosity Lab because they wanted to be able to deliver things underground and they wanted to test it.
That's great.
And the vision is, they can't do it here, we don't have enough land, but out in some place like Texas or Oklahoma where they've got land for a big subdivision, when they're late, because right now you don't want to have lines above ground because they get knocked down with storms like are out there right now. And so they bury the cabling underground. What they're talking about doing is having these go to the houses. So, you know, you will have your own, and it is a little robot in the tunnel underground that will deliver stuff to your house. And they're testing it right here. There'll be a big press release coming up soon, but that's the last slide. All right, there's a lot going on. It's real exciting. Anyway, anybody got any questions?
I'd like to take this opportunity to open the floor to questions for Mike. Please, ask any questions. Sir.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for all you've done for us.
Oh, sure. Let me just say this. If I make it sound like I did it all by myself, I learned a long time ago. Look, yeah, I have a great city council. I mean, there's Liz Ward, Chris right over there. Joe Sawyer was here a little bit earlier. We have a great, there you go. We have a great council. There's a lot of people that help too. Yes, sir.
I guess the plane is traffic's getting pretty bad. It's going to get worse.
You're telling me.
You guys have any plans to address it all? I'm glad I don't live in Johnson Creek or St. Ives and have to come through this area in the morning. I think we can move.
One of the dilemmas of being popular is a lot of people want to live here. We have one job. We have more than one job for every citizen, and that's women, children, and old retired guys. That's what that ratio means. We have a lot of jobs here. The problem is only 15% of the people who live in the city work in the city. They come from Johns Creek, Dunwoody, Doraville, Norcross. That's the problem. This is a popular place to work, and we've got a lot of good jobs. I don't really know the answer to that question, but we're working on any number of things to move transportation along.
I'd like to call on Mike, and then we have one here in the front. And then, go ahead, Mike.
I'm first.
You're just standing.
Here's waiting.
All right, Deacon Bill.
Mike, I really just want to say thank you. I know with Brian Johnson, the city manager, I recently met with him and what he's doing in Mechanicsville and getting savings to the hall for the dollar, the property for some housing that we're going to be working on.
I heard about that. Yes, you're part of that. Thank you for your efforts.
Appreciate it. And for the help you did with all the outreach that here and also assistance to help us get some of the grant money as well. I just
glad to do that.
Annual homes for seniors?
Repeat the
What
question.
we can
Couldn't hear you.
Have you thought of any patio homes for seniors? Well, here's the problem. I have a friend whose wife would come up to me every time she saw me and she says, I want you to build me a cottage in what is now Waterside. And when I talked to the developer, they said, oh yeah, we're going to have all those houses. And then what they present and what's approved sometimes isn't that. Although once we approve it, we build to it. But that's the kind of thing that, yeah, I don't know. And the answer is no, I haven't. Because developers are the ones that bring us that. That's why retirement housing, 55 and older, those townhomes I'm talking about down at Ingles, that's the slant we're trying to make there. Because we want seniors to be able to walk to town center and walk to the forum, to be close enough to do that. Because right now they're talking about having a shuttle go from Waterside. Everybody know what I'm talking about, Waterside, the old fast food place, down to the forum and stuff like that. So,
All right. We have another question right here. Please stand up to ask your question.
yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Our good friend is running again for office. He needs your support.
Thank you.
Questions or
I have a
other
question,
comments? Please, right here, Dennis.
Mike, is Jones Bridge Park part of Peachtree Corners, or is it the county that runs it?
It's within our city limits, but it is a county park, so we have a good relationship.
And who has responsibility for the egress and access to that park?
Yeah, that's one of those things that I liked it better when they had a policeman with the.
Living down there.
Back to that. But I don't do that anymore.
Please, there's one here. Please stand up.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's very, very important. Is the Marshall program going to cost the taxpayers?
No. How much?
Where will the money come?
Where will the money come? Well, it's going to come out of the budget, and we can afford it. Our city manager said this recently. Mayor, you know the easy days of, see, we don't have a millage rate, but we have been able to do a lot of things because we have a lot of SPLOST dollars, because we're the biggest city in the county. And then, you know, because of our population, we get a lot of ARPA money. And also, we have a big business community. I can get into that if you really want to go down that bunny trail. But the short answer is, we can do it in our budget because, as the city manager said, but this will be, and I think it's 350,000 is roughly what the budget is. But if you tried to add a whole lot of cars and a lot of training and pistols and guns for a full, like 40 guys, oh, that's a different thing. So it is well within the budget for us to do that. And the money will come out of the operating funds of the city. We will not need a tax increase for that. Next
Right
question.
ahead, right here, please. Eric.
Mayor Mike, is there any plans to widen Peachtree Corners Circle? I've heard this a few years ago, they were going to make it from a 2-lane to a 4-lane. Is there anything there you can bring up as far as this? It's still
That's a county road, and yes, periodically it comes back up. It's kind of like widening Spalding. You know, how long do you want to live? You talk about widening Spalding, some people take it personally. But where you can widen it, you want to widen it. But there are places where that's people's yards. You know, you can't really, you know, and we're not going to condemn somebody's. It's one of those things that, you know, we're a card-centric society. People want to live here, and we're struggling to find ways to keep people moving. That's why a shuttle program, you know, would be a good idea. If we could have shuttles go out to the communities, pick them up, and take them to the town center for concerts and things like this, or to the forum during Christmas, whatever, or just have a regular cycle. But I haven't heard anything about that lately. I'll ask.
Just before we go any further, I'd like to thank the volunteer cooks. And I'd like to thank our audiovisual expert, Peter. For the Knights of Columbus that are here and other volunteers, please, at the end of the evening, help us to take all the tables and chairs down. It should be left to one or two people to be done in minutes. What is the expression? Many hands make fewer work. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Keep us in mind for our fish fries during the Lenten season or any other activity. Please come on Facebook and communicate with us. We're not recruiting, we're not proselytizing. We want to be a part of this community. Sign up for the use of some of these facilities. We're available. It's available. Visit our church. Come and talk to Father Parish. Understand who we are and that we want to be a part of this community. Any other comments or questions?
Let me just say this. I brought a stack of cards and we'll leave it right here, but I'll stick around if anybody has any questions. And my son's in town. My kids are visiting, and Dad always likes to get back. But he said, "Oh, you're going to be busy tonight, Dad?" Thinking he was going to go, "I'm going to listen to you speak." Oh no! Well, I've got a friend that I used to be a college roommate with. I'll go visit him. We'll go drinking some of it. In this weather, driving, nothing like that.
All right, please take the mayor up on it. Come up and take one of his business cards. Stay and socialize. I'm asking our core volunteers to bring everything into that back room back there. Make yourself comfortable.